South Carolina upset the Vols. I mean, this game was a bloodbath for Tennessee fans. You gave up 63 points to a South Carolina offense that struggled all season. Spencer Rattler, I got to give it up to you. The man of the hour, Spencer Rattler. For the first time, it seems like ever, Spencer Rattler finally had a game where he lived up to all the potential that we all talk about in the offseason. But throughout this season, we haven't really seen it at all. Well, we definitely saw it in this game. 30 of 37, 438 passing yards, school record, 6 touchdowns in this game. The Rattlers struck. The Rattlers struck in this game. Tennessee, their cornerbacks were awful. And I definitely hope that these were not the same cornerbacks that Tennessee were giving out those McDonald's bags to a couple of years ago. Because if they are, definitely money that was not well spent. And Josh Heupel needs to go in the transfer portal, and he needs to offer every single top-level cornerback that's out there to improve this secondary, because they need not just more talent, but they need a lot of depth. Because if you're going to run the fastest offense in college football, you know that your defense is automatically going to be at a disadvantage in every single game, so you know that you're going to need elite depth at corner. I don't understand why it seems like Tennessee's offense, doesn't try to somewhat help out the defense when they see the defense struggling. Their solution is we're just going to outscore them, and maybe their defense ends up getting a stop or two. But I don't think Tennessee did a really good job at recognizing, hey, our defense is struggling. Maybe we should try to change our offensive approach a little bit. Now, Tennessee's offense did start out really slow in this game, and South Carolina's defense did their job. However, there were definitely opportunities where Tennessee's offense definitely could have got sparked up and they could have got going. However, it's just that I think that Tennessee just doesn't play enough complementary football. And yes, it is okay to have the fastest offense in college football. However, I do think that you can tone it down a little bit. Some things we tend to overindulge in. There's a reason why it's bad to have too much of anything, right? Too much money, too much food, too much of anything is bad for you because you tend to overindulge in it. And when you overindulge in it, you tend to over-rely on it. And when it comes to this offense and Josh Heupel, it seems like they're kind of overindulging in this doggone tempo. Like, can you slow it down a little bit and help out your defense? Like, what's the point of going super fast if you're just going to end up going 3 and out? What's the point of going super fast if you realize that your defense is struggling and your defense needs a little bit of a break? So, for Tennessee, man, this defense got absolutely exposed. And I was really surprised because, it's not as if Tennessee's defense has been this bad all this season. This was the same Tennessee defense that shut down Kentucky's offense. And I understand that Kentucky's offense isn't anything to write home about. But this was the same Tennessee defense that shut down LSU's offense. I mean, I don't know what has happened to this defense over the last couple of weeks. I don't know if they're still having a little bit of PTSD from what happened against Georgia. But I mean, this defense was really bad. And everybody talks about Tennessee's secondary being one of the worst when it comes to pass yards per game allowed. But I mean, this is a pretty good team when it comes to being able to get pressure on the quarterback. And they are pretty good against the run. So, I mean, in this game, you would have thought that some adjustments would have been made. And then you kind of would have thought that they would have been able to get a turnover or two. But nah. I mean, Spencer Rattler was as flawless can be in this game. He was looking like Jesus on the football field. And then Hendon Hooker. This hurt me, man. this hurt me. Because for those of you guys who have been listening to the podcast all season, we've been huge fans of Hendon Hooker over here. We've been clamoring for Hendon Hooker winning the Heisman, dating all the way back to the end of last season. And even over the course of this offseason, you guys can go check out my Instagram profile, my TikTok. We have several videos clamoring for Hendon Hooker winning a Heisman. And it's just so heartbreaking to see how this game ended for him and how his career at Tennessee ends with him tearing his ACL. And he played a pretty good game as well. But it's just that, Tennessee's offense just at times had some moments where South Carolina's defense got the best of them. And plus, with how fast their tempo is, their defense ended up having to come back on the field. And their defense is already at a disadvantage. And South Carolina was just throwing the football all over the place. Like, you could tell that Tennessee's defense was definitely gassed. And they definitely got to get some more depth at corner. But Hendon Hooker, really sad what happened to him. It was really heartbreaking. And it's really heartbreaking when you look at what South Carolina did to Tennessee. Because it's kind of like they just ripped their season apart. Everything Tennessee worked hard for up to this point seems like it's been taken away. I mean, their playoff hopes are gone. Hendon Hooker, unfortunate way for his career as a Vol to end. I mean, South Carolina was just on a warpath in this game. And Shane Beamer, this was a huge win for him. Like, Shane Beamer, I definitely think if we were giving out nominations for Coach of the Year in the SEC, he definitely wouldn't win it over Brian Kelly, but I definitely would have him number 2. Because, I mean, South Carolina definitely overachieved again this season. Let's be honest, how many of you guys thought that South Carolina was even going to be able to be bowl eligible before the season? Because many people was like, man, South Carolina has a really tough schedule, JT. Like, it's going to be really hard for them to repeat the success that they had last season. Well, they did. And, I mean, they had some injuries on defense. Offensively, I mean, they didn't have an offense, it seemed like, until this game. They didn't really have a quarterback, it seemed like, until this game. Like, it just seemed like this was just the perfect storm for South Carolina's offense. And I made a segment right before the season started about how this offense is going to shock the SEC. Yeah, I thought it was going to shock the SEC all season, but it shocked the SEC tonight. So, I mean, South Carolina, huge win for Shane Beamer and company. This is definitely a team that you definitely can't count out. It seems like anytime this team is an underdog, they find a way to come through and pull off the upset. And this was the same team that, had lost last week. So, I mean, yeah, I didn't see this coming. And I'm going to be honest with you. I had Tennessee on my ticket. I thought that Tennessee was one of the safest bets that you could make, taking them to cover that, minus 21.5. And since this is the end of the podcast, I guess I'll tell you guys this little story. So, a lot of my homeboys come to me when it comes to gambling advice on college football, because I watch a lot of football and I'm pretty informed on it. And around this time, I'm pretty hot. So, I've been giving out what my homies call locks. And locks pretty much are, wins, pretty much. You picking the right game. So, we picked 3 games. I told my homeboy I like Florida State minus 24 against Louisiana. They covered. And I like Duke plus 7.5. Duke, we thought was going to blow the ticket because they were struggling against Pitt. However, if you guys watch a little bit of Duke football, this is one of the luckiest teams I've seen in recent memory. They converted a 4th and 18 for a touchdown. Like, they could only score a touchdown. That was it. That was their only option. They didn't have no first down or nothing else they could do. They couldn't kick a field goal. They needed a touchdown. They got it. Now, they didn't get a 2-point conversion, but it didn't matter because they covered. So, we're thinking, okay, we're in the good, because my homeboy ends up not listening to me. I told him, do a single. don't do parlays. Well, he doesn't listen. He does a parlay. So now he needs Tennessee to cover against South Carolina. And we were pretty confident about it. But he didn't watch the game. I watched the game because I had to make sure. And I had a little bit of a strange feeling. I was telling him, I was like, bro, like, be careful, bro. Like, don't give Tennessee a little bit too much credit. There's been a lot of upsets happening. Well, Lord and behold, Spencer Rattler in South Carolina, they're just on fire for the first 3 possessions. And my homeboy texts me. He's like, dang, bro, what's going on, bro? You think they're going to cover still? I'm like, just chill, bro. Like, Tennessee, they got the fastest offense in college football. Their defense is really good at getting turnovers. And plus, South Carolina's offense hasn't been all that good this year. They're just a little hot right now. They're going to end up cooling off. They never cooled off. I mean, right now, South Carolina probably just scored another touchdown on Tennessee's defense as we speak. And I mean, this offense was just going off. I mean, the scoreboard was blinking. Blink, 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 blink. Spencer Rattler had a fantastic performance in this game. And for Tennessee, you kind of thought, or you had the feeling that you were going to slip up eventually. You kind of didn't believe it because of how dominant you've been, but it kind of was a feeling that you kind of felt all along, just a little bit suppressed. But this is still a really good season for Tennessee. No, I don't think they're overrated. Their over-under win total was only, 7-8 wins? They're probably going to end up going to a New Year's Six bowl game if they can take care of business against Vanderbilt. I mean, yeah, Hendon Hooker is gone. That hurts. But, I mean, this is still a fantastic season that Tennessee has put together. And for South Carolina, I'm really interested in seeing if they're going to be able to beat Clemson. Because if they're able to beat Clemson, man, things are going to be really crazy down there. But I appreciate you guys for listening to this episode of the JT Sports Podcast. Make sure that you follow us on Instagram at JT Sports _ and on Twitter at JT Sports __. Check out the JT Sports Podcast, available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, Amazon, wherever you get your podcasts from. The